and I'm an imposter. I'm Remy, and I'm an imposter. Or so I used to think when that little voice in my head would always tell me that I was a fraud or that I wasn't good enough or that I had to do more. An imposter syndrome, as I later found out, is something that affects so many leaders and generally people around the world. So, the Journal of Behavioral Science has imposter syndrome affecting 70% of people. And imposter syndrome is defined as anyone who has a deep rooted fear of being exposed as a fraud or believed to be an imposter, meaning somebody who doesn't feel that they actually deserved their success, or someone that feels that they're going to fall into a deep chasm of failure. And Harvard Business Review, interestingly, has women leaders in particular at 75%. So 75% of women leaders experience some form of this. And like I said, I often felt the imposter. I always aimed for success and a gift or whatever you want to call it. I always had the ability to go to the top of the mountain. Whatever the A was, I went for it and I reached it. Whatever the highest position was, I went for it and I reached it. But guess what? I would get to the top of the mountain and I would discover that there was always another peak to climb. There was always something more I needed to do, and it was never enough. Now let me read you a short passage from our upcoming book. The massive gears of time and to-do are turning, turning, turning. The teeth of the gears are ominously approaching, and you find yourself at the intersection of accomplishments and not enough. If you slow down, even for a second, you will be crushed in the jaws of more. So keep running, keep doing, always be closing. Deep breaths. So that's a passage from our chapter on the solar plexus, from Going Beyond Resilience to Root Zilliance, co-authored with Samantha Anderson. And I, share that because maybe you can relate. Maybe you can relate in this feeling of always having to do more because you feel like no matter how much you do, it's not enough. Or maybe your boss asks you, what have you done for me lately? Or maybe you feel this deep sense of, I'm not worthy unless. And whether you call it feeling like an imposter, or some of you might refer to it or experience it as your inner critic or your inner saboteur, or even your inner perfectionist, for me, it pushed me to always be on. And like I wrote about this gears of time and this, always to do, it meant that I was burning both ends of the candle. I ended up acting out and lashing out, being full of fire and rage because I didn't have a way to ever refill my cup. So I ended up being really angry at everyone else. I would have outbursts for no reason, sometimes in really embarrassing situations. I felt these intense desires to micromanage and control things, and I couldn't trust or delegate things in a way that would enable me to actually have some space for rest. And on top of that, I was having constant urinary tract infections, something that happens when there's too much fire in the system. I was literally so full of go, 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 go of this fire that I was burning myself down. And I was reaching burnout. Now, what helped me, what kept me sane, and what I discovered because it got so bad that I hit burnout and I ended up, in fact, having to have 2 surgeries because of my chronic UTIs, I found there was a type of practice, there was a type of breathing, there was a type of movement that would help bring soothing to my fire. Now, I needed soothing because I was always doing too much. That was the tendency. And like a pendulum, our chakras or our energy centers go from either way too open and being out of balance or closed or even blocked. Now, someone who lacks motivation or someone who can't seem to get out of bed to finish the projects that they start, or maybe someone who's too shy to put themselves out there, doesn't feel like it's perfect enough, they may suffer from too little fire. And so the practices that are part of chakra yoga in the chapter dedicated to the solar plexus are practices that teach us how to stoke bring and add fire, or soothe. And bringing both of these movements through breathing and through mudra and through mantra, and also through subconscious repatterning that changes the way we feel about our self-worth. Our salary is not a price tag on our heads of how much we're worth. How can we find validation from within? This is what I'm so excited to share on Saturday, this Saturday, March 11th at 11 a.m. Eastern or 8 a.m. Pacific. I'll be teaching a live workshop going into Chakra Yoga to tend our fire. We'll be getting into twists, we'll be getting into breathing, one that brings fire and one that cools our fire down, so that you will learn various tools and techniques that you can use right away when you notice the first sign of imbalance. Whether it's a behavioral issue, like I had, this anger or this desire to control, or maybe it's a physical issue. And this is an entire section that Samantha, who's a functional medicine health coach, has written about how the functional body works, how digestion works, how the adrenal glands work in conjunction with the liver, and how cortisol gets processed, and then what foods are going to be balancing to us. So join me on Saturday, get a taste of this work, and let me know if you have any questions about what we're putting together, because this is what I'm so excited to share, because it's what I wish I had when I was going through these insane periods of feeling like an imposter. I hope none of you ever feel like an imposter, and none of you ever feel like you're going to fall off some imaginary pedestal or someone's going to find you out, and that you start to cultivate a sustainable fire within yourself that helps you to transmute experiences of challenge into learnings, and that helps you know where to expand, what to expand into, and what to turn away from. What boundaries you need to put in place that help you balance your most essential resource, your energy. So thank you for joining, and let me know if you have any questions.